My name is Grant Turner, and I am the Associate Artistic Director at the Elgin Opera House. So as the Associate Artistic Director, I suppose one would say that my assignment really is the Creativity Director. Artistic directors, of which I have been one before, a couple of different times. Artistic directors tend to have to worry a little bit about budgets, and they have to worry about the bottom line of the theater. They have to pay a little bit of attention to pretty much everything. As the Associate Artistic Director, I'm a little freer to just sort of concentrate on the creative side of things. So not only does that mean working on a particular play, in this instance we're working on Midsummer Night's Dream, we're also in the process of creating a new theatrical space called the Hale Turner Little Theater. But I also get to focus on, we're going to try to start working on an education wing of the theater, not only for local interested participants, but also for current actors in the Elgin Opera House circle. So it gives me a chance to play in a lot of different sandboxes without having to worry so much about the overhead. Just to sort of get you up to speed at where we are, I was the artistic director of a small theater here in the Grande Shakespeare Company. And the Elgin Opera House is obviously a well-established community theater that has been doing some great work throughout the last 10 years or so. There was an opportunity for, I think, the both of us. For me, it was a chance to work in a slightly larger sandbox. A chance to work with different resources, a chance to work with an organization that had a built-in infrastructure, whereas currently or beforehand I'd been working pretty much on my own, sort of, been responsible for my own advertising, casting, producing all of that stuff. Again, a lot of the overhead stuff, which is a bit of a headache when one just wants to be creative. So suddenly I had this opportunity to work in a pre-existing organization, which is going to make my job a lot easier. That Opera House space is a beautiful space, a space that I've dreamed of working with really ever since I was a college student here back in the 80s. I did 2 productions on that stage in like 89 and 91, I believe, back in its early infancy, before it was what is now the Friends of the Elgin Opera House. It was just sort of an ad hoc performance space, and they did summer shows, and I was in 2 shows. But I graduated, I went back to Portland, and I had dreamed for many years of coming back and working at the Opera House. So it's actually helping me achieve a lifelong goal. Which is, again, to work in a space where I suddenly have creativity, I have the ability to just be an artist as opposed to an administrator, which is very exciting for me. Plus, I love that stage. Plus, we're in the process of building a new stage, which is a small little black box 50-seat arena, which is very exciting. I suppose one could suggest that what I provide to the Opera House is maybe a different way to sort of approach theater. Musical theater, which is sort of their bread and butter, it has its own style. Classical theater, while having a similar style, does require that an actor uses some different tools in their toolbox. So we're going to be able to give actors some new opportunities. I suppose I provide a certain opportunity to bring in some actors from around the region. Having worked in Portland for several decades, I also seem to have manifested a bunch of connections with some international actors. I'm friends with a lot of actors from the United Kingdom, actors who worked at Shakespeare's Globe in London or the Royal Shakespeare Company. How I managed to pull that together, I don't exactly know, and that's probably, fit for another interview at another time. But at any rate, I do have a lot of connections I think I bring an enthusiasm that matches very well with Terry Hale, the artistic director's enthusiasm. And anytime you have twice that amount of enthusiasm, your theater's in pretty good shape. Now that I've joined the Opera House, the very first sort of goal we had was to take this old restaurant that they had inherited. It was actually donated to them. And they had been using it as storage and it's an old building, and it's rather a dilapidated building, so it was going to need some work. But it actually is a huge facility, and it takes up about roughly 2/3 of a city block in Elgin. And it's divided into sort of 3 sections. One section is really run down. The other section, not so much, but probably needs a lot of roof and electrical work. And then the front section, which was the restaurant proper, is actually in pretty decent shape. So as we were touring the space, I said to Terry, I really think I can turn this into a performance venue, and I think I can do it fairly quickly. So we got started on that right away. And as we started putting it together, just using the natural layout of the building and using some of the decor that had already existed when it was a restaurant, it quickly became obvious that it was meant to be a Shakespearean playhouse, which is obviously going to be the bulk of our work anyway. But because it just so desperately, I think, needed to be launched with a Shakespeare production, we sort of took the bull by the horns and we said, you know what, it wasn't on the schedule, but let's plug in a production of Midsummer Night's Dream. We'll put it right up at the front. That way it won't bump into Newsies, which is our next big musical, which is coming up in September. That way we really we launched the space the way it should be launched, which is with a Shakespeare play in the summer. It should be the first show of this season since it's the new jewel in our crown, and it just sort of all made sense. I would be remiss if I didn't say that we are doing a Midsummer Night's Dream in our new performance space. The performance space is called the Hale Turner Little Theater. Which I'm very flattered to have a theater named after me, which I think is very nice. It's Shakespeare as I like it. It's accessible. It's immediate. It's a small venue, so the actors don't have to yell. The audience is very close, so an actor can turn and see somebody immediately in the crowd and talk very directly to them, which I think is part of what makes Shakespeare really connect with somebody when those words are shared with you as opposed to being spoken over your head. Oftentimes in like a big proscenium theater where the lights get dark and the actors are miles away from the audience, it's very easy to sort of lull yourself into, a daze and to sort of pay no attention to what's happening. But in a small venue like that, where we're all sort of active participants, and the actor knows to share those words with the audience, and the audience has to, in many ways, be an active listener, I think that can really create some magic. And I think it can also make Shakespeare accessible in a way that the average person perhaps doesn't suspect. So I'm very excited to do it in this small venue. Not only is it launching the venue, I mean the venue itself is an amazing space. If you had asked me to draw up a plan of what I would like a 50-seat theatrical black box performance stage to look like, it would look exactly like the space that we inherited. It's somewhat uncanny how perfect this venue turned out to be. So I'm very, very excited about the venue itself and the opportunity for an audience to see it. But there's something special about this play too. Midsummer is a wonderful, warm-hearted masterpiece, and I'm really excited to have audiences share that particular play as we launch this new space. Thank you, Eastern Oregon Live, for doing this video today. Be sure to check out their Facebook page and their online content.